Hello, friends. How are you guys doing tonight? Welcome to Showboys. We have a special Throwback Thursday series kicking off tonight. We're going to be talking about Mr. Robot, which brings me so much joy. Super excited about that. We got Nick here and Chad with us. Nick, sipping on some tea, it looks like.
A little bit of tea.
A little tea. Wow.
A little tea. Got some
Going,
voice.
going
clarity.
G-rated.
Yeah, G-rated. Just like this show. You kind of look like Elliot right now. You just need to put your hood up.
Yeah, I was actually kind of thinking about rocking the hoodie.
And Mike has an unhealthy obsession with this show, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, hey, if you've listened to, maybe, one or two episodes of Showboys, you've probably heard me talk about Mr. Robot in some capacity.
Yeah, a couple times.
When Mike likes something, he likes something.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, so we're like piloting an idea here before we go live, since we all this kind of came from last week's episode where before we went live, Nick and I had like 3 great little side conversations that we referenced throughout the episode. And we're like, why don't we ever record our little pre-episode hangouts while we're waiting to go live? So we did that. If anything interesting came out of it, it'll go up on our Patreon, which shout out, go check out patreon.com/showboyspodcast. I forget where I was going with this. Oh, I was telling Jeff, who's behind the scenes, by the way. I was telling him that, like, I'm glad, at least to Jeff, like, I really overhyped the show. I mean, I overhype it to everyone, but like Jeff actually really, really liked season 1, which made me really happy because I was really afraid that I way overhyped this and that he was going to watch it and be like, I mean, yeah, it was good, but like,
yeah, honestly, I was kind of concerned about that from my point of view as well. Because, not so much that you overhyped it, just that like everything that I am forced to watch for this show turns out poorly in my favor. Like we have a bad running. Thor, Love and Thunder, and the freaking werewolf special or whatever.
Name a third thing.
There's something. There's got to be something.
Okay.
I noticed a pattern in those two things, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's
both recommended by Jordan. Just saying.
Yeah, and both Marvel. I came to love Midnight Club around the end, after our episode, but Midnight Club was kind of trailing there for me a little bit too.
The watch wasn't as enthralling as you want it to be.
Yeah.
Right.
It took 2 hours of talking on the podcast to convince you that it was
that it was good. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, we were talking. I was like, basically anything that I come to enjoy, I do that with. Like, I get really passionate about it. Like, just like you, Chad, when you go into your, like, I forget what you call them, but like your phases of hobbies or whatever. Like, when I go in, like, I go in deep. And like, I will talk anyone's ear off about anything that I'm passionate about. And sometimes, I mean, if it's something I enjoy, it doesn't always necessarily mean it's going to be a widely praised thing, right? Yeah. So there's always that chance that, like, I hype somebody up into something and then they turn it on or play it or listen to it and they're like, I don't know why he likes this.
Yeah.
So hopefully that didn't happen here with Mr. Robot. But before we get into the episode, gotta shout out the top tier patrons, Tim B, Yusuf H, and Joe C. Thank you guys so much for being top tier patrons. You guys rule. We'll be recording our Patreon episode for January, having our March Madness tournament draft sometime in the coming weeks before it becomes February, because we are obligated to have a monthly Patreon episode. So that I'm looking forward to. That should be fun. And then, like I said, we might be throwing shorter, like, pre-episode hangouts up there if good conversation happens before we go live. But yeah, be on the lookout for that. Go check out Showboys or patreon.com/showboyspodcast and sign up today. So yeah, is there anything we need to announce before we get into this? I don't want to skip over anything.
I don't think so.
got our Switch giveaway. 1,000 subscribers. Go subscribe, tell your friends. We'll probably give away something at every 100 subscriber milestone. And we're doing a March Madness bracket. Join the Discord for the details. Listen to our Patreon episodes.
Is there money involved?
There could
There
be.
should be.
Maybe. More details will come in the coming weeks. And so be sure to join the Discord. Stay tuned for that. And also check out our community tab on our YouTube page. We'll probably be posting things on there as well. Without further ado, Mr. Robot Season 1, the return of the Throwback Thursday series. I am super stoked to get into this. I guess we could give a little background of the show. Maybe that might be a good idea. So this show aired all the way back in 2015 on USA, which was shocking for me when I first started watching it. I think I came to learn about this show actually through going to the movie theater. If you go early enough before the previews, you know how they have those like ad things going
The
on.
previews.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like the previews. And they were doing like a spotlight on this show, and I was like, oh, that looks really interesting. And then one day I noticed that it was on Prime, and I watched season 1 and was like, holy crap, this show's amazing. And then when I was waiting for like looking up when season 2 was going to come, I was like, holy crap, this is on USA? Like, what? Because
nothing good comes out of USA.
Well, it's not a premium cable channel, right? It's like
Solid
basic
B
cable.
tier.
Yeah.
And
B+ at
this
best.
this show doesn't feel like a basic cable show.
No, not at all.
In content or presentation and delivery, like cinematography wise, like this show punches way above basic cable to me. So I was really shocked to learn that it actually aired on USA. And I was even more shocked to find out when I would watch it live on USA, it was not edited in any way. So like what you see on Prime Video or the Blu-ray, if you're watching on Blu-ray, that's what aired on USA, which also blew my mind because I was like, holy crap, what the heck? Civ says, hey, now Burn Notice came from USA.
Yeah,
never saw that show.
Yeah, never seen it either. It just seems like every show that comes out of there is relatively similar, like white collar suits. Like they're just all, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So this show stars Rami Malek as Elliot Anderson, who has launched into stardom post Mr. Robot. I think one of his roles before Mr. Robot, he was like a mummy in Night of the Museum or something like that, but has since gone on to play Freddie Mercury in the Queen biopic.
Yeah.
And then he is a villain in one of the Bond movies. There's
the most
too many
recent
to remember the name. But we also have a revival of Christian Slater's career. And then the supporting cast, a ton of great performances all around. Some notable ones. We have B.D. Wong in the series.
Dun, dun.
Yeah, you know him from Law and Order. Michael Christopher, of course, as Philip Price. Amazing. And then just the supporting cast all around. Portia Doubleday plays Angela Moss. Carly Shaken as Darlene. Martin Wallstrom as Tyrell Wellick. I mean, the cast is phenomenal. But basically, the main synopsis of this show, we follow a cyber security engineer by day, hacktivist by night. Main character Elliot, who is battling some inner demons, and we just follow along this journey with him, and boy is it a journey. But Chad, gotta know, like, first initial thoughts on Mr. Robot before we like start really getting into it and start getting spoilery.
Yeah. So Yeah, I fucking loved it, to be honest with you. Absolutely loved the first season.
Good win.
I
It
was so
actually,
nervous for your
yeah,
answer.
yeah, it
We're-
actually blew my expectations out of the water, and they were relatively high because of
Yeah.
how you had hyped it.
We're
But
2 for 2 on the Throwback Thursdays then.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, and I think there's just so much here that I love, dude. I'm a very big fan of You on Netflix. The show reminds me of You, just probably with the narration and stuff. And then like other movies and stuff that I love, like Identity, is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's very similar to what we have going on here towards the end of the season. Yeah, loved it. Absolutely loved it.
Awesome. And Nick, this is your second viewing, right? And I'm working on viewing number 3. But Nick, having gone through this already and now revisiting for the podcast, how was your second viewing of season 1? And did it like change the way that the story is presented to you? Did you I mean, obviously without revealing or spoiling anything for future seasons and stuff, when I rewatched this for the second time, like when we were working together and stuff, I remember telling you like after like seeing the series through to its end and then starting it over, like everything just took on a completely different tone and everything. Like, was it similar to you or for you at all? Or
No, I mean, so definitely knowing, at least within like the bounds of this season, even like just knowing the things that they give away at the end of this season, just completely changes how you take that first viewing or your second viewing in. So it leaves you, at least me, in a combination of like forgetfulness, but also knowing things about the series, just still equally interested to be like, oh, what happens next? Or like, how's that going to play out? Because now I'm remembering things that happen later. I'm kind of like, well, now I'm confused because before they were just kind of like innocent plot elements that just get introduced to you and you don't know what they mean. But now it's like, I know what that means, but like, how does that work in this part of the story? So there's like a giant like Lego bin unconstructed of like parts that I need to put it all together. So I know all the parts and pieces. I just forget now how they go back together because of the way they present it.
yeah. Yeah, that's I mean, that makes a lot of sense because it's been several years since you've watched it, right?
Was that before 2020 or did we already start the podcast when we were watching this? Was that back into the office?
That was man, so I'd have to look at the other season.
I think you've always just like
but it
talked up Mr. Robot on the podcast.
Yeah.
We've never watched it during having the podcast. So it's definitely been like 4 years or 2-3 years.
Yeah, so season
I was watching
4
it while the 4th season was on. That's right.
Yeah, season 4 aired
It was
in
2019.
2019. So
Yeah, so like 3 years ago.
It ended before the podcast. And actually, little fun Showboys Easter egg. A podcast that I listened to while watching, like I think I started it in season 3 of the show or whatever. But I ended up listening to a podcast because of my fascination about this show called Mr. Roboto, and it was where I got the idea for our companion series. Essentially, they were podcasters from different shows. They got together and covered every episode of Mr. Robot as it aired, and the podcast released like 2 days later. So I was like, once we started this, I was like, dude, we got to do some sort of companion series. I mean, just come on. But yeah, also, if you want to listen to another podcast about Mr. Robot, but a podcast that breaks down every episode in an episodic format, check out Mr. Roboto. If you're watching this for the first time, it's very helpful. They won't spoil anything because they recorded their episodes right after the episode aired, so they don't know anything more than you do as you're watching this for your first watch. But yeah, man, it's been What I was gonna say is, so Nick, this is your second rewatch, like 3, maybe a little longer, 3 years after your first watch. When I started my second watch, I started right after the penultimate episode of the series. Like I saw the penultimate episode and I was like, all right, I need to go back and like rewatch this. So my second watch was very fresh. So I was
Yeah.
able to like puzzle things together and be like, oh, that's what that was. That's what so on my third watch, it's a little less fresh, obviously, because I haven't watched it since 2019. But still, like, I think I imagine this was similar to you guys in Game of Thrones, where I remembered a lot, but even some parts in season 1, I was like, oh, I forgot about that, and that was awesome. Or like,
Yeah.
I don't know. It's been fun. It's been a trip. Any characters stand out to you in particular, Chad?
Yeah, I mean, I think Elliot's like my spirit animal, really, at heart. I absolutely love him. I love his narration. I also love the way that the show is presented, and I don't know that I've ever seen a show that presents it like he's talking to himself, and we are himself. You know what I mean? Like he's talking to a friend through the camera, and it breaks the fourth wall a couple times too, which is really really cool that you don't see very often. But the other one that stands out to me is, and you're going to have to help me with the names because I'm fresh, but I think Tyrell is his name.
Yes.
Tyrell's, yeah, dude. He's just like one of those. He's one of those
character.
dudes that just makes your skin crawl. You know what I mean? Like everything that he does, the way he talks, the way he is. He's like the rich, snobby businessman that goes and beats up homeless people and pays them for it. Like he's just a piece of crap.
He's
And,
the Joffrey of this.
Yeah,
series.
he is the Joffrey for sure. That's a great way to put it. Yeah. But yeah, those two are obvious standouts for me. I really love Christian Slater's character as well.
Oh, yeah.
I have a hard time because I don't even know if I want to say this on here because he looks very similar to somebody that I work with. Who's and we'll just leave it at that. But it's very disturbing how close and similar they are to looking and acting at times as well. So,
is this somebody that maybe I know?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, I know who you're talking about. Yeah, maybe a little bit.
Oh,
I
dear.
can see it. Maybe like a young Alex, maybe. No, that's not who I'm talking about though. It's a totally different guy. But yeah, I really love his character. I love his twist at the end too. Yeah, there's just so much to talk about, man. There really is.
I'm so excited. Chad is excited,
dude.
I'm very.
This was the cliffhanger for like a whole week.
I've been so nervous all week. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Mike's like, do you think he's watching it? And I'm like, I hope he's watching. I'm like, but what's his reaction gonna be?
Yeah.
So another thing, man, I guess maybe we'll have to put some things out on Patreon. Maybe not. I don't know. Because I end up talking about it on the show. So I don't know. But anyway, another thing I was telling Dad behind the scenes is this show is the standard example of why at least but I think Nick and I agree that like the sweet spot for a series is 3 to 5 seasons. And the cherry on top is if the writer knows exactly where the series is ending. Because this show was originally written as a screenplay to be a feature film. And as you'll learn in the 4 seasons, there is way too much in this story to be contained in a like 2-hour movie.
It would have been a bad movie.
It would have been not a good movie.
Yeah.
Yes. So Sam Esmail, one of my favorite creators, he was like, we're going to make this a show. And he knew exactly the story he was going to tell. So every moment, every conversation, every detail, and every scene, it is all important and all leads to the culmination of the story. And in our Andor episode, this was kind of my argument for like the people who are a little not as enthused for Andor because we know exactly where it's leading to.
Yeah.
But in my mind, that's a strength, right? Because then the time that you have to tell the story, you can make it super impactful because
Yeah.
you're not having filler episodes. You have such a limited time. You're not having filler conversations. Like everything is important. Nothing is throwaway. And that's what this series is. Like everything is important.
Yeah. This might be the first show that I've watched or like multiple season show that I've watched that is this short, to be honest with you. I don't think I've ever watched anything that's under like 5 seasons maybe. Because I think what's Breaking Bad? Breaking Bad's close. 5 seasons.
5,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably the closest, but everything else has been like 7, 8.
Yeah.
So I'm excited because I feel like I mean, a lot happened in this first season.
More
And,
than I remember. I was
yeah,
like, whoa.
Yeah.
Honestly, I had the same reaction, Nick. I was like, holy crap, I didn't think that happened in this
They already
season.
gave that away? Like,
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh yeah, because all this other absolutely nutty stuff happens in the rest of the show.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of like, by episode 7 and 8, I was like, oh, okay.
Honestly,
this is still season 1. Okay.
Yeah, honestly, I'll be honest with you guys because I know that you had talked about this being like the unreliable narrator type of deal,
Yes.
and I thought that was going to be like the end of the show, that we were going to start to learn some of that stuff. It's literally in this season you start to pick up on some of it. So, and it's thrown right in your face. So, yeah, I don't know where we go from here because that's like where my mind was like at the end. It's going to be this that happened at the end of the season, you know?
Right. We have a link for that podcast, Mr. Roboto, in the chats now, if you want to like bookmark that and listen to it later. One thing about that podcast, that something I learned from that podcast, and then we'll get into the unreliable narrator thing, and then we can start getting spoilery and covering season 1. One thing that Mr. Roboto does really good, the podcast I'm talking about, in later seasons of the podcast, one of their hosts is a cybersecurity like engineer guy. So every hack that they did in the shows that he was on, he was like, yeah, that's literally exactly how you would do that.
Oh, that's really
and
cool,
like,
man.
so he was there and he verified like all the techie stuff. And I will say some of the techie stuff didn't like age super well. Presented like presentation wise. I think most of it did, but there were some parts I was like, oh man, that's kind of cheesy.
Yeah.
Like,
but
what?
it was as realistic as they could make it, and I think they really went out on a limb to like try to break the I mean, even though Elliot is a hacker that wears a hoodie in like a dark room, like they got rid of all the like green text matrix flowing, like super cheesy TV hacking stuff.
The like CSI hack style.
Yeah.
Enhance.
Yeah, I will say that if I could right now pick a skill that I would learn immediately, it'd probably be hacking. Like, what a cool skill to have, dude. Like that's
Neo,
just cool.
Download style, just like plug in.
It's just cool the stuff that he does in here. Like, I mean, some of it definitely teeters on stalkerish stuff that he does a lot throughout the season.
Some of it,
yeah. So I I'm not necessarily talking about that, but it'd just be cool. I don't know. I'm sure it's super complicated, but yeah. I just like I feel like this. I felt like this show was way older than it is, and you said 2015, so I was like thinking like, was Anonymous like even a thing with the show? And they clearly were. If it's 2015, I think they were. They've been a thing for far longer than that, and they definitely lean on that a lot. But yeah, I think the first half of the season with all the hacker stuff was really, really good, and I missed a little bit of that at the end of the season, but everything that was going on in the second half of the season was arguably better. So I hope the hacker stuff stays through the whole show because a lot of that stuff's really cool. So
yeah, one thing you'll notice, and anyone else who's watching this for the first time, they were very in touch with the current times as this show was being aired, like almost like scary in touch. Like, how did they know that this was like a thing during this time? But yeah, the tech and hacking stuff is they tried to be as realistic and accurate as they could be, which I thought was really cool. Also, shout out to Dad, by the way, who remixed the intro that we used tonight of the Mr. Robot theme. The original soundtrack to this show absolutely slaps, and I've listened to it many times. Anytime I hear that Mr. Robot theme, I just like want to run through a wall. It's so good. Like, I just love it so much. But yeah, the unreliable narrator thing is so good, and it's like a perfect touch to this show, and really allows for Sam and the writers to be very creative with the delivery of the show. And if you couldn't tell, all right, spoiler alert, if you have not seen season 1 of Mr. Robot yet, don't listen from here forward, because we're gonna spoil the crap out of season 1. You've been warned. But yeah, so the show, obviously major inspiration from Fight Club and American Psycho. And it's just like, Nick can verify. I don't want to go too much into detail, but the unreliable narrator aspect, they utilize that so well. So well. They do so many interesting and creative things with that. And I mean, in ways, like, I don't know, maybe some, I mean, Civ, you'll have to verify this, because you said you were 30 minutes into episode 1. You said you had the show figured out. I would be interested to know if that held true in your marathon today to finish season 1 before the episode.
There's no way.
Tonight.
No.
But like,
no way. I'm calling
it. In a whole, like, the main story arc of season 1 could be very predictable, right?
Yeah.
But the use of Elliot's unreliability is so good that it's just like, I second guessed myself, because I was like, I don't know what to think, because I have no idea what is real and what is not.
And that's really at the end of the season. Like, that's where I'm at. Like, I don't know who's real. I don't know. I don't know if any of this is real, or this dude's sitting in a freaking psych ward somewhere. You know what I mean?
So good.
So I think that they do a really good job with setting up that first half of the season, where it is hacker heavy and it's more normal, even though he's a shit show and he's, a drug addict and all this stuff that he's got going on. They set that first season up so much better to land all those twists at the end. And slap you across the face with some of it as well. But there are a lot of hints too, if you watch like pretty much any scene that Christian Slater's in. Like, there's a lot of hints in his scenes that he's not there. You know what I mean? Like, the bartender doesn't talk to him.
Nick
no
and
one looks at him. So
we were messaging back and forth multiple times throughout the week, being like, when they're in the same room together, one of them is just in the background, like, maybe not like literally in the background of the scene, but they're like figuratively in the background and do not interact with anyone.
Right. Yeah.
And for a while through season 1, I was even curious if Mr. Robot actually directly interacted with anyone at all. But then I was proven wrong, because he does actually talk to Darlene in one scene, and then in the same scene in a later scene talks to Romero directly, but Elliot's not there, so that's just Elliot.
Exactly.
As the season goes on, they slowly show us more Mr. Robot only interactions, because they're kind of like building that in for the audience, that like, hey, we're going to show you a little bit more Mr. Robot, because we completely don't show you anything he's doing all the time. Because they still haven't quite slipped that they are the same person. So all of a sudden you're like, oh, we're getting some more character scenes for different characters, and they're building that up for you.
Yeah.
But then it all like clicks when they kind of like, you're like, what have I been watching?
Yeah, definitely. It's cool because it's almost like a double twist too that they pull fairly quickly, because I was like, oh, that's his dad and he's alive. He's not
Right,
dead.
yeah, there's that
remember.
too.
And
You
they're
know
like,
what I
oh
mean?
no,
So-
he's dead.
Yeah, he's dead. Yeah,
Oh my
so
gosh.
yeah, it's so good, man.
By the way, the reveal of what, you know, when Elliot starts to figure all this stuff out about Mr. Robot and himself, the kiss with Darlene, like that happened in like what, episode 7?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Which I was like, holy crap, there's still 3 more episodes. Like that would have just been a great season 1 cliffhanger. Like end the season with that.
Might have been 8, but yeah, it kicks off the penultimate and finale like arc,
Dad's
if you
confirming
will.
back there. It's 8. It's 8. It is.
Yep.
Is it okay? Maybe, yeah.
And another thing that I completely forgot about this show is, and this is probably why I stuck with it so much when Mike forced me to watch it. I've been force watched. Mike's been forcing me to watch shows much longer than the podcast.
Yeah.
Is the amount of kind of like Game of Thrones, Attack on Titan, like what the heck did I just see? Like whether it's his girlfriend, right, in the prison breakout,
Yeah.
or
yeah.
the executive on TV.
Oh, dude, wild. Yeah. Freaking wild.
And this is another thing, like Mike, like you're like, wow, this was on USA.
Yeah, right.
Well,
That's a
not only
super
that, how
graphic
about
scene,
Tyrell with the secretary?
That too.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
like,
that too.
or his
That's
crazy
episode
wife.
3 or 2.
Right.
It's like 2 or 3.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was
It's
like,
yeah,
how is this on basic cable?
right. Yeah, even now that I think about it, yeah, it is wild, some of the stuff that you see in the show. Now it is 2015 and that stuff has obviously loosened over the years. But yeah, like I mean, there's stuff in here that would have got shows like canceled back in the day. You know what I mean?
Well, and like they just just a simple thing like the F word is not censored on USA. Which
right.
At the time, I was like, dude, that's crazy. Like,
yeah, I think there's like some obscure rule to it, like you can have one a season or something ridiculous.
Yeah, they go.
I don't know if
that,
that's exact
a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know if that's exactly it, but
Civ here says this. I don't want to forget about this. He says, I love the joke while they were watching the movie Hackers, where someone said, someone is currently making a TV show that's going to blah, 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 a new generation of hackers. That's very funny. I remember.
Yeah, I like a lot of the hacker jokes that they throw in there. Like the I can't remember his name, but the one dude's like, I've been in this business a long time and I've never seen like a song singing on a computer or whatever, like they show in most hacker movies, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the tertiary characters of F Society, Romero, Trenton, and Mobley. I love those. I love those characters so much.
Yeah.
But yeah, Civ, if you're still here, I really want to know about your figuring out of the show 30 minutes into episode 1. I want to know if that held up. And if
I'm trying to think what happens 30 minutes into the first episode that would have even tipped any sort of hat whatsoever.
Yeah.
I think maybe because the F Society thing happens right in the middle of that. So maybe he picked up on like the Mr. Robot isn't really their thing. Because it is very blatantly obvious when you know, because they don't ever look Mr. Robot, especially in the first half of the season, like directly in the eyes. They never address him directly. They look right past him to Elliot.
Yeah, so, especially like on the bus when he's like hooting and hollering on, or not the bus, the subway, and nobody's reacting to it even remotely.
Change the world.
Yeah,
kiddo.
Now, granted, I will say that I've been on a New York City subway, and that stuff is just probably like normal on there, so nobody would react to it anyway. But
I do want to say one more thing again before we get into story. One of the technical things that I love about this show, the detail in the cinematography. Like, if the cinematographer and director of photography and stuff did not win awards for this show, then award shows are rigged, because the shots and specifically the amount of tension and emotion that they were able to establish just in the framing of a shot. Like having so if you're watching the podcast, this is like a main character dialogue scene in Mr. Robot. This is what it's framed like.
Yeah.
He's like the person talking is like 20% of one side of the screen, and then just the rest, the other 80% is just like the scene, like the environment, the backdrop or whatever.
Yeah, it's a wild contrast to The Shield, which is one of my favorite shows of all time, where it's like right next to the actors' faces when they're talking. Is actually very difficult to go back and watch now if you're like adjusted to today's television shows. Going back and watching The Shield can be very jarring because it's like it's kind of shot just crazy. Like I've never seen anything like it. But yeah, it's the total opposite of that. The camera's like literally an inch away from their faces.
Yeah, it's just I don't know what it is, like why that like is so effective. And I don't know if it's as effective in other shows. And frankly, I'm not aware of many other shows utilizing stuff like that to as much of an extreme as they do in Mr. Robot.
Yeah.
Because they really do, like, I was not exaggerating, like the amount of the screen that is not occupied by characters sometimes is insane.
Yeah.
Well, I love it. I love it. It does such a good job of. Oh, we got Civ's comment. Let's see. He says the very first thing he says in the show, maybe I should give you a name. No, you're only in my head. It's a slippery slope. Okay.
Figured it all out. Right on.
Figured it
Yeah,
out.
I mean,
this is a genius.
Yeah, that's genius status there, because it's just a narration that he's just talking to us that it doesn't really hint towards anything. But
well, the crazy thing about that, given we assume Elliot is speaking to us when he says that line that early in the show, he isn't aware of his own, like he's not self-aware that it is a slippery slope.
Right.
He doesn't even know.
Yeah.
He's so unaware. It's pretty wild that they go that far to say like he is that unaware of his situation.
Yeah.
By like, episode 9 or whatever, when they kind of figure that all out. But to your point, Mike, about the placement of the camera, even though the environments in the scenes aren't like, there isn't like a ton going on, like say Game of Thrones style, where there's like a ton of stuff that catch in the background.
Mm-hmm.
The scenes are very important in terms of like putting the viewer in the frame of mind of like where they're at, what's going on. And I know that's like kind of obvious, but because they're very good environments, like his apartment, right? Like certain things go on there. There's things changing throughout the series about it. Like the dog gets added and he's always up to, he's got his morphine breaking down the table, or even F Society, their hangout, that place is awesome. So just really good environment designs that are, while they are static, they are very cool. And they kind of help structure a little bit what state his mind might be in when he's in any of these environments. Because obviously when he's in F Society, there's a lot of potential for him to be actually Mr. Robot in those moments, and you kind of have to pay attention. Versus when he's in his apartment, he's much more closer to Elliot, or in the therapist room. And Mike, you point out the one thing in the therapist room.
Just wait.
Yeah, exactly. So like there's just so much detail to the environments to like think on over time.
Yeah. All right. So like let's just get into it because it's 40 minutes. I could go on and on about all the non-story related stuff in the show because it's just I love it. It's very clear. I love this show. Opening scene, we open up and we have like superhero Elliot taking down a child porn ring at Ron's Coffee. And I gotta say, like starting out like that, where we have this hacktivist, which I'm gonna call it, I thought that was the route the show was gonna go. And I mean that is in large part where the season goes, right? He moves on from hacking. I wouldn't call Ron a small time hack because that's kind of a huge deal, and he like did the world a service there, taking out a child predator. But he sets his sights on well, he says himself he wants to save the world. So what does he do? Instead of targeting individuals, he decides to orchestrate this insane plan to hack the largest corporation in the world to erase the world's debt, which is very Fight Club.
Yeah.
And Mr. Robot is very Fight Club. I mean, like the character Mr. Robot is very Fight Club. But while in concept it seems like exactly identical, I think that's kind of where the comparisons to me stop.
Yeah, I think it
this
stands
show
on its
does
own,
does so many other unique and great things that you can tell that it just, like, Sam was fascinated by that archetype, but was able to build his own thing
right
with it, which is great, because having a clone of Fight Club would be a tragedy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fight Club 2.
So the last Throwback Thursday series, and I know we've covered like seasons of shows in one episode, but like I'm not quite sure how to succinctly like go through this season. So Nick, do you have any, like, where should we start?
I think like it would be impossible to go scene through scene. Of course,
we'd be here for like 8 hours.
Yeah.
I think really we really can just do the big like framing, like the big like 2-sentence synopsis of an episode, and kind of talk about like what needs to be talked about in that episode. And kind of break it down like that, and like just kind of what comes up. I think, Chad, that's how we started to do some of the companion series for House of the Dragon. Because it's hard to go scene by scene and break them down that way. In this show is just like way more deep in terms of the layers of stuff that's going on. But I mean, I think it's important even that we highlight kind of who Elliot is, right, in each kind of episode and stage along the way, because episode 1, right, he works at Allsafe. He has a boss that's pretty kind of ordinary kind of boss that runs like a tech company. He's kind of like knows but doesn't know what he's doing.
Good guy Gideon. He
Gideon.
is a great guy. Gideon
great
is a
character.
Great guy.
Good guy. But yeah, I mean, he starts with, taking down old Ron in his coffee shop. Great scene.
Yeah, which is a great way to introduce the character too.
Yeah.
Just the way he is, and just the way he's like, I normally do this from behind a computer, but I need to work on my social skills. It's just so good.
That was one line that kind of made me cringe a little bit, because he's like,
really?
I typically do this AFK, but I thought I'd work on my social skills.
Yeah,
like,
okay, maybe he did say AFK.
Could have not said AFK. That would have been a little less cringy. But no, it was almost like if Batman, his only superpower was hacking. Yeah, that's the vibe I got in like the opening sequence of this show.
Yep.
Yeah, and you do get that kind of like almost predictable like show path where he's like throws the hood up, cops arrive, busted, tip, like they set it up as like that real slick kind of CSI, like boom, perfect little intersection of activity for like a nice flashy show. But then I think it very quickly kind of like starts to divulge from there. That's like really the only hacker like
it really unravels after that first sequence.
Yeah. And like you said, he stops a DDoS attack on Allsafe's network, and that kind of unravels and explores more so like Elliot's role in this company.
He stops a DDoS attack on E-Corp through his job Allsafe. Like Allsafe, like E-Corp is getting hacked or DDoSed, and Allsafe steps in.
Yeah, I mean, I interpret that as those are Allsafe servers, and E-Corp pays them to host the data.
Yeah.
But we're also introduced to his kind of like work environment, right? His lady friend, can't even call it girlfriend, because it's not his girlfriend, but we also don't really know at the time that what their relationship is. But that's where we start exploring. What's her name, Mike?
Angela Moss.
Angela Moss.
She's up
her
there on
boy-
the shelf, by the way, guys. Right
You
there.
got a Funko of Angela Moss.
And one of Darlene right there.
Wow.
And then we got Elliot, Mr. Robot, masked Elliot, and
Man, no hooded Elliot. That's such a missed
that's a
opportunity.
chase at like Comic-Con.
Oh,
They're
it's a
really
chase.
expensive.
Gotcha.
Guess who this is?
White Rose.
the-
White Rose.
yeah.
BD Wong.
Anyways,
Oh no. It's that. Yeah. Oh, okay. So that is a guy, right? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry. All right.
BD Wong
So
does a
I
very
just wanted
good
to-
job
yeah,
in that role.
that reminds me.
Yeah.
Did you
Okay.
guys watch the post-credit scene? There is a post-credit scene.
Didn't know there was a post-credit scene, so no,
All
I
right.
did not.
Well,
Rip.
never mind. No comment.
No comment.
Continue. Angela Moss. Yes.
Yeah. Her crappy boyfriend who insanely wants to be friends with Elliot. That's just so
Yeah.
cringy, but a
Oh, I
great
love it.
Such a
interaction.
I love it.
douche. Such
Ollie,
a douchebag.
by
I
the
can't
way.
stand him.
Oh,
The
Ollie.
All Safe crew is great. You got Gideon, his boss, amazing guy. Angela, his lady friend. Ollie, her boyfriend, super annoying, like
Oh,
way
dude,
too
yeah.
try hard.
Yeah, I can't
Um,
stand him. I couldn't stand him from the moment where he's like, I can't have this kind of stress in my life.
Yeah,
Like,
dude, I
shut
love it.
up.
He's
God.
talking about like music. He's like, "Oh, you listen to Maroon 5?"
Yeah, Maroon 5.
And then we can't forget my main man Lloyd,
Is that
the
his
guy who's
his
like
desk buddy?
yeah, the
Yeah.
other engineer that's like when he has some of the best one-liners in this season where like when the DDoS attack's happening, it's like they're like a serial rapist with like a I forget exactly what he says, but I was just like classic Lloyd.
Good old Lloyd. So yeah, we get a lot. We can see his work life there, and start understanding that. But also in this episode, which I once again thought it was way earlier than I thought it was, but like Mr. Robot thing on the subway, Mr. Robot's enticing him to join F Society. Elliot's like, what? Like, where am I going? What am I doing? He has no idea. Right.
Yeah.
And then he's first introduced to F Society,
Yep.
which they know who he is. He has no idea who they are.
Yeah.
Because at this point in time, Mr. Robot and Elliot are very separated characters from Elliot's point of view.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note Elliot as a person in this part. Like when he's at All Safe, I mean all throughout really, but at All Safe in particular, he is so closed off, like mega introvert. Does not even like accurately describe how much this guy hates like social and physical interaction with people. So he's just like very closed off to everyone except for Angela, really.
Right.
And the other thing, the way he is introduced to F Society actually is through the DDoS attack. Gideon and himself take a trip out to the server farm and do some intense, like techie server room, really dramatic. Got a hard line into the server and find the infected server before the other ones turn green.
Been there, done that.
Yeah. Do they actually turn green like that? Like, do you see a screen with little bubbles? Or because to me that was one of the scenes where I was like, oh, that didn't really age well. Like I thought that kind of looked stupid. But if that's actually what it looks like, I mean,
I would say that is maybe not that like cute, but there are like in complexes like that, there are display screens that have some sort of visual representation like that. That's a little bit easier to digest. That is like green for good server, red for bad server kind of thing. It's kind of just like a living diagram because that's kind of how you diagram out like architecture on like servers and stuff. Like you use icons and like things that look not ones and zeros. And
you got to have that visual representation.
So I'd say that's not like completely out of the realm of it. I mean, if it's a very advanced buttoned up server farm, sure.
Which presumably it is for the company. That
I mean,
it's for,
I did love that. Like they take the private jet Elliot's with the boss man, like taking the private jet like at 4:00 in the morning to hit the server farm and like do their thing. Like I think that was fun and cool.
Yeah, and honestly, like insert E Corp for like Amazon, right? Or like whatever, like
Yeah,
the
they gave me
biggest
like an
conglomerate
Apple.
you can possibly think of. Like
Yeah,
that
they
would
give me like an Apple vibe. That's
I would
what they
imagine that like if one of these companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, even like was hacked like this, like their firm, their tech firm would probably go at 4:00 in the morning to try to figure this out, right?
Oh yeah, for sure.
It is tricky to place them with like a real company. They are, I think, more so like an umbrella corp because they none of our tech companies in real life manage like the world's debt and like
Debt,
credit
right? Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So like while they have their own phone, they're kind of more like the company of the
Right.
world because you have
They
their
have
phones, you have their credit cards. Like it's kind of the
they have
world.
banks.
Unlike our world where it's not quite to that
Yeah.
point yet where there's that corporation.
Amazon hasn't opened its an official bank yet, but they do have their own line of credit cards and
Yeah.
of the likes.
Yeah.
But Elliot is introduced here as he, is saving the server here. He goes into the root file and finds the F Society DAT file.
The DAT file.
And his hacker brain is intrigued. An itch is scratched, and he like there's a note in there for him like to leave it there, and is
this for me?
He's stuck with this decision. Does he remove the file or does he leave it there? And he can't delete it, so he leaves it there. And then that's when Mr. Robot runs into him on the subway, takes him to F Society, and we meet the hacker group. So maybe as we go through, we should talk about all the characters, because one of the things that I love about the show and that we've talked about a lot in the past, Nick, is how every supporting character is like so well written and like so well acted, and they all play such a crucial role in the story as a whole. Even if it's just like contained within a season, like the characters are really crucial to that season or whatever.
And that always comes back to writing, right? And when the writer knows what they're doing from beginning to end, because they never write these characters out of their lane or out of their space, right?
Yeah.
So like there isn't going to be like some weird off-place dialogue with one of like the F Society members that doesn't make sense later. Like they stick in their lane and they are an effective character as they are written.
And you don't have those random characters that pop in and then like literally disappear like into a black hole and you never see them again.
Yeah.
Which is really nice. But yeah, who do you remember everyone in the F Society group, or do you need me to go?
That's
through
you. You're the name guy.
That's you.
All right. So in F Society, we get back to this defunct like arcade, which we later learn in the season that this was an arcade called Fun Society, and like the lights, the classic lights on the building go out and you just have F Society. So I mean, come on, right? Hiding in plain sight.
Yeah.
The F Society group, we have 4 people plus Mr. Robot and / Elliot. We have Romero, who is the older of the group, the most experienced. We have Trenton and Mobley, 2 amazing characters, by the way. I love Trenton and Mobley. And then, of course, Darlene, who is like this wild card Spitfire hacker that, up until episode 8, you think maybe there's something happening between Elliot and Darlene, and then you find out that it's because it's not what you think is happening. It's because they're literally brother and sister. Much to Elliot's surprise when he plants one on Darlene's lips.
Really, that threw me through a loop, man, to be honest, because she's even like, I love you in that scene and stuff. So it's like that whole scene is really well done.
Yeah.
And it's really like your first hint at what's going on too, right? I mean, first,
Yeah.
maybe
Well,
not hint, but
that's where it all
first
starts to
clue.
fall apart for him
Yeah,
because
yeah.
she's like that's where he's like forcibly reminded, like he has to remember. He's like, wow, there's something I completely don't know about anything.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was the other like really fun interaction. So like right next to like when Mr. Robot's in the scene, it's when she's in the scene with Elliot, and it's like so apparent that that's his sister from the get go because they play up the whole tension between his girlfriend and her and him because there's this like half dressed chick that he's just like hanging out with, and
Yeah.
it's confusing. And then, but also at the same time, I remember when I watched it the first time, I'm like, does he just like not know like they're dating kind of thing? Like, and he
Yeah.
is accidentally dating two people.
Yeah.
So Dad is blowing up private chat back here with a lot of points. First he says, we'll get to that for in a minute, but Nick says in here, Tyrell does disappear and we never see him again. Rip. I guess you're right on that one. But Dad asked, didn't he walk in on Darlene in the shower in his apartment? Yes, he did. But the one thing that I thought, I mean, this happens post kiss when all the unraveling is happening, but there's a scene that they throw in there that probably confused a lot of people until they got to the end of season 1, where Darlene bumps into Angela in the ballet class and they're having that conversation where, like, if this was your first viewing, well, I'll just ask Chad, what did you like when you got to that scene where they're talking about Elliot in this ballet class? Like, what did you think? Because it comes out of like, it comes very early on in the unraveling before we
It
find
does. Yeah,
out
yeah, it's a good point. I don't know that it ever really registered with me at all. I thought they were just talking about him. But yeah, I guess that because that's well before, what episode's that in?
maybe
Maybe not
early
well
9.
That's like the
Yeah,
cold
that's
open of like 8 or 9.
8. Yeah, it's got to be 8, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I picked up really on much of anything there. I thought it was just two friends talking about it, but dude, this show I feel like is going to require multiple watches for me to catch everything, you know?
That made me think about this. Like, up to that point, there's no indication at all that they would
know
even
each
know
other.
each other.
That they know each other, right?
And they're
yeah.
just like, oh, hey, what's up, girl? Like, aren't you glad we're taking these ballet classes together? By the way, what's up with Elliot? And I'm just like, how would these people even know each other? But then
Right.
by the end of the season, you realize
get
like,
it.
oh,
Yeah.
it's because Angela and Elliot have been like best friends since they were little kids, and Darlene is his sister. So they were all three around each other all the time. So of course that makes sense. But
yeah.
And there's that weird lens that you realize that those two have a relationship, a continuous relationship during the whole like season that Elliot doesn't know about.
Yeah.
Anytime they're with him, they assume he knows that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know that.
But he doesn't, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So we've gone through all safe characters. We've gone through F Society characters. We brought up the shower, the apartment, which of course introduces us to a fan favorite of the series, honestly, and that's Frankie Shaw's character Shayla, who is his across the hall neighbor in the apartment, and then eventual, excuse me, I got the hiccups. Eventual girlfriend later on in the season. Excuse me, and then eventual deceased girlfriend by the end of the season. Also his drug dealer. So she filled a lot of roles in his life.
Yeah.
Dude, another one of those side characters that's just like expertly written and like beautifully acted. Shayla is such a good character and is so...
I mean, I know people like her that look like her, act like her.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
it's
right.
weird.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Are you friends with Frankie Shaw?
Yeah, I think everybody knows that archetype of a human. That you know,
it's bizarre how well they nailed it. Because
they really did. Yeah,
but like she is critical in like breaking down Elliot to a like 1% like functioning person in social situations. Like, I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot that he's just like able to function at 1% in social situations, but like from where we are first with Elliot up until this relationship with Shayla, like that might as well be like 1,000% like improvement.
I mean, I really like their interaction, and even the flashback to like when they first met, like because that's kind of the cool thing I like about people with low social skills. That it doesn't have to be that complicated, because a lot of times I think people are over socialized and are over constructed in terms of what they expect out of like social engagements. It really doesn't have to be any more complicated than how Elliot interacts with the world sometimes, right? And the way she enters his apartment for the first time, and she just observes like the morphine there. She's like, "Oh, I can get you." Like she inserts herself into his life, like kind of like innocently, right? But with some motive, like just figuring out this guy and like this is just how it works. But it's like, hey, also, can you help me move the stressor? Like now that I have you.
Honestly, like I mean, aside from like the drug dealing aspect and like, you know, morphine addict and whatnot, ecstasy addict, Shayla, I always want to call her Frankie because that's like the actress's name. I don't know why, but like I feel like she should have just been Frankie in the show. Like that's just a great name. But like personality wise, like what you just described, Nick, is like exactly how my sister's personality is. Like that is 1,000% something my sister would do and probably has done like 100 times. That's just how she interacts with people, which is great. People like that are awesome. But yeah, I love that introduction where she's like banging on his door. It's a life or death situation out here. She dropped poor QWERTY's fish tank, and there's where we get QWERTY, which is another fan favorite of the series, might add. His little beta fish there. Yeah, Shayla, great character for the short amount of time that she's in season 1 here before she ends up in Vera's trunk. But that leads me to one of my probably like top 3 characters in the show. Maybe top 3 is a stretch. I would say top 5, which sounds like a lot for a show, but there's so many great characters in the show that like you could make that list easily a top 10. But I would say 100% in the top 5, potentially cracking the top 3. But Vera is just, oh my gosh, I love the character of Vera so much. Talk about like I mean, I'll say this about every character, so I'll just stop. Perfectly written and amazingly executed on screen. Like the performance that dude, I don't even know what his name is. I don't know if he's been in anything before or after Mr. Robot. All that matters to me in my mind is his performance as Vera and Mr. Robot, because it's so great. Anytime Vera is on screen, like I am glued to the screen. Because he's just so eccentric and like out there, but like the interactions between Vera and Elliot are so great because they get each other.
Yeah.
I wonder,
complete opposites as they are, they're like identical.
I wonder if there's like 2 buckets of characters here, where there's like participants in the story who are like very first person, and then you have these like third person characters like Elliot, like Vera, right? Even Tyrell is somewhat of a third person playing character. They are so self-aware in a sense, right, of their impact on their environment, right? And that's like very much Vera, because like he understands, and you get that in that second scene with him when he's in his underwear and like she's in the
I love it so much, dude.
He is unbelievably like enlightened, and his whole thing about like when you learn to like hate yourself, like that's power. Like
dude,
that
just
was
bone chilling.
Intense.
Yeah.
But like I love the interaction, like the prison break thing when he gets out and he's like, the universe, just the way he delivers his lines are so great. It's like, see, the universe brought us together, brave traveler, or whatever.
My favorite Vera scene is when he's just pacing in his cell and he's just like, I know
with
you.
The bouncy ball.
Yeah. And he just like figured it out. What he figured out, I'm still a little unclear on, and I don't want to venture too much into that.
I wonder, honestly, like your first thought wants to go to Elliot,
right?
But like, I wonder if he's talking about his brother,
right?
because of the twist at the prison break
Yeah.
scene. But yeah, dad puts in chat back here. He's like, I'm gonna give you a hug. I love it. I don't know why I
That-
sound like
that's-
that when I talk about Vera, but
maybe I just like drug dealers because like
Shayla
Vera's
and Vera. I mean, there you go.
his interaction with like the world is also very just like simplistic and straightforward. Like it seems complex, but like he's like, I love you, Elliot. Like basically, like he loves Elliot.
Yeah.
But it comes
Yeah.
off as like you over socialize. It's like, dude, is he gonna kill Elliot? Does he hate Elliot?
Right. Yeah. It comes across as backhanded in a lot of scenes, I think. But yeah, great character. Yeah, great character. Love the prison break. Love the twist there. I mean, I was pretty shocked, even though I kind of assumed that was
They
the
kinda
way it
set
was
it
going to
up.
go. Yeah, they
Yeah.
set it up. So, but yeah, I
When
think
when he
I think
says,
it might be the brother that he's figuring out in the
Right.
Yeah,
show
yeah.
there. I think that makes the most sense.
when how heartbreaking was when he's like, she's been with you the whole time.
Yeah, he's so bad, dude. Like such a bad drug dealer thing to say, right?
Yeah.
as he
But like
rolls away.
also, even if she wasn't in the trunk, that's something that Vera would say and believe, right? Because he's so
Yeah.
like universalistic. I don't even know if that's a word to describe it, but yeah, I don't know. It's what a character.
Yep.
And also I want to return real quickly because the episode descriptions here, I keep seeing E Corp, and I just wanted to touch again on the unreliable narrator portion. How genius is it that not only does Elliot call E Corp Evil Corp, which clearly is not the name of a corporation in the world, right?
Right.
But every character in the show calls E Corp Evil Corp.
Yes, and it's even like there's like a news broadcast that shows Evil Corp and stuff. Like it's really well done. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's
and
really
it's
good.
it's little things like that that's just like, I don't know what's real because
Yeah,
everyone is a part of
exactly.
this like illusion of grandeur, right? Like
Yeah.
there's no breaking between what Elliot is like going through in his mind and what everyone else is. Everyone is going through what Elliot is going through, which is so good.
Yeah,
So
it's really
good.
good. It's really good. Yeah.
He figured out that it was his brother. See, we should just have BioSiv on this, and these episodes could be like 10 minutes long. He'll just be
Yeah,
like,
he just figures it all out. Yeah.
I mean,
duh.
I don't know what there's to talk about, guys. I mean, pretty straightforward to me. Isn't around. The agency is referred to as E Corp. Oh, there are scenes where Elliot isn't around. Yeah, they interchange E Corp and Evil Corp, but the fact that other people besides Elliot call it Evil Corp is the stroke of genius.
Yeah. I thought I mean, I like that, but it was really, like I said, that news broadcast that had like the text down at the bottom that said Evil Corp. I can't remember if it was a news broadcast exactly, or something where it was written as Evil Corp, and I was like, wow, this is like freaking wild. Like, is he just seeing that? Like, does it not actually
Right.
say Evil
Right.
Corp? Like, yeah, it's really trippy, dude. There's a lot in the show that's really trippy so far, so I can't imagine where we're going here. Yeah.
So there was one thing in our private chat that came up, and that was Dad saying it's crazy because he says F society in the therapy session, which leads us to two great things. One, we have to talk about Krista, his therapist, another great character. And man, I feel so bad for her.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
The stuff that Krista goes through, like first off, Elliot hacking her, the guy she's seeing, which he learns about from hacking Krista, and then learning that the guy she's seeing is a total scumbag who like lied to her saying he's dying and like is really like having 7 affairs or whatever.
And he's like the scene, like that stuff's all bad, but the scene that really riles me up with him is him with the dog, where he's like picking it up by the collar and stuff. I'm like, dude, like what a freaking piece of crap.
Not even using his real name, but like when after we realized that like he listened to Elliot and broke up with Krista and told her everything that happened, like just the deadness of her in the next therapy session where she's like not even paying attention. She's clearly not there and like going through stuff is tragic. But when Elliot just comes out and he's like, "Oh, you want the truth?" and then he like tells her entire life and all of the secrets, like, again, I was
Great
like,
scene.
man, Chris is just trying to help you, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, what did she ever do to you, man?
Yeah.
Oh, I felt so bad. Which leads me to Jeff's comment about him saying F society, not in reference to the hacker organization, but in the rant that he has. And I don't, is that in the first episode? If not, it's like in the second. It's really early on in the season. It's the first time we get a major glimpse of the unreliability of Elliot, where he goes on this massive rant, like making all this social commentary of like the state of society and how everyone's basically sheep and sucked into social media and propaganda
Robot
and ads and
talking.
blah 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 blah. Which, again, like Nick just said, Mr. Robot talking, even though we see Elliot and we know by Mr. Robot's rant at the end of the season in episode 10. That rant was amazing, and I love that one. I love Mr. Robots at the end of the season, and we get more of those throughout the entire series. Like the things that they touch on in society, I think they do it well in an interesting, entertaining way. But also, I think they do a good job of showing both sides of the coin here. In particular, when the hack does go through and they hack Evil Corp, erase everyone's debt, like, obviously people like us here on the podcast would probably be celebrating, right? All of our debt eliminated, right? We're free from our financial prisons. That would be amazing. But one thing that the show does is show the toll that would actually take on our society's infrastructure, and how we'll continue to see more instances and examples of showing both sides of the coin as we get further into the series. But just as a small example, like when Elliot wakes up in Tyrell's car in the parking lot, and the attendant of the parking area is like, you only pay, like,
Yeah.
you only paid for 2 days and now your card doesn't work because all the credit card machines like are down because of the hack. Like something simple like that. People can't use cards. Like
Right.
if you don't have cash, like
You're screwed.
people
Yeah.
who had money in Evil Corp's banks no longer have money. Like
Yeah.
it is all gone. So while people who are struggling financially probably rejoicing, the people who like saved up nest eggs and like grinded into retirement and like had their golden years planned for and set aside, like, not anymore.
Hey man,
Like
chaos
good
is a ladder.
good people that did things the right way in society also got like royally screwed. You weren't just screwing the top 1% of suits, right? Like it screwed everyone. So I think they do a good job as the series progresses. You don't see like an incredible amount of that here in season 1, but they do show both sides, which I appreciate, because a lot of times when you get shows that tackle social commentary, usually you're only going to see one side
of it. Yeah.
of the story, one side of the argument, one side of the coin. But I appreciate that they tackle both. So where do we go next? We talked about Krista. The characters revolving around Elliot's apartment. We talked about F Society. We talked about All Safe. I guess there's only one place to go, and that's Evil Corp, right?
Yeah, and that's and that really kind of brings us to the well, to some degree. We don't get Price quite yet, but we get Tyrell and the ending of episode 1, which completely blew me away that happened that early. But is the job offer basically from Tyrell to Elliot in the boardroom? Got picked up by the suits, tossed,
Yep.
and taken there. Which is a cool scene. Makes all the lawyers leave. He's got like 20 lawyers or whatever to like
Yeah.
monitor the conversation.
Yeah. It's
and
cool
then-
because you see that scene like maybe even within the first scene of the show as well, like the shadow
when he
group
goes
of people
on the,
walking
like,
around.
when he goes on the rant, like that's
Yeah.
one of the clips there.
That's one of the scenes. So yeah.
yeah,
the top 1% of the top 1%.
Yeah, when we first see Elliot, Tyrell, right, just in like when the suits are walking through All Safe really early in the episode, and Elliot and him have that interaction, I was like, wow, I did not remember it happening that early, like Tyrell at all. I thought
Yeah.
Tyrell was like a later season 1 introduction, but like so much is introduced in episode 1.
Yeah,
It's
a lot,
crazy.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. And I think like that is just a symptom of us being used to longer series, even though you and I have seen this show already, Nick. Like the amount of stuff that's introduced just in episode 1 could be like an entire season worth of
Right, but we're working on
story
a shorter,
arcs and characters, right? But this is an accelerated timeline.
Yeah.
But I think it's good. But yeah, we have Tyrell, of course, from Evil Corp, which is definitely in the top 3 characters of the show
I
for
agree.
me.
Yeah.
Like he is the scummiest of
So bad.
corporate
Yeah.
scumbags.
Yeah.
But holy crap, man, does he Mark Wallstrom does a fantastic job of making me hate that guy's guts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Like he does the best Christian Bale American Psycho impersonation in season 1. Like,
Never thought about that.
I didn't.
So
I
good.
didn't put that together, but you're so right. Yeah, you're 100% right on that. Yeah, he's just scummy, dude. And I think what really brought me to that was the mirror scene when he's like talking through his pitch, and then he's smacking himself as he's getting it wrong. He's trying to get it right, and then obviously
I said
the
Mark
homeless
Wallstrom,
man.
by the way. I don't mean to interrupt, but I need to correct myself. It's Martin Wallstrom. I was thinking Mark Wahlberg and Martin Wallstrom got combined in my head somehow. But yeah, that mirror scene. Continue on, because that's such a great introduction to the person of Tyrell.
Yeah, it really is, and I don't know, that scene's really good, but it was the homeless man thing that really was like, dude, this guy is just such a piece of shit, man. Like through and through, Wolf of Wall Street style scumbag that's just got too much money, and now he's paying homeless men to beat him up.
But so they set him up like that, but pretty quickly they kind of like flip this other side of him where he doesn't have a lot of money. He has a wife who's pregnant who kind of really controls him.
Yeah.
And there's some sort of like mystery, maybe a little bit of empathy, but like trying to figure him out because he is just so full of just chaos, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of up. He's probably number 2 if you don't count Mr. Actually, no, he's probably number 2. Well, he's top 3 in like insanity with like Elliot, Vera, and him. Like those 3 are just off the rocker.
Definitely 3 straight psychopaths right there. He's, I mean, it gives the impression that it's a facade, right? Like it's an act, a front that he puts on, but I think some of it is, but I think the majority, like he legit is that person, but you see moments of I don't want to say weakness, but like vulnerability, moments of him not being a straight psychopath and more being like a small scared
whooped puppy when he
person,
gets home.
in some of the interactions with his wife.
Right.
But can we just talk about like power couple of the century? Tyrell and Joanna.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about Ollie and Angela.
No, dude. I mean, like as cold-hearted and no pun intended, robotic and monstrous as Tyrell is, like his wife is equal
10x.
to, or maybe even more so.
Yeah, more so for sure. Yeah.
What are they, French? What?
Swedish.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they do a lot of talking in
different language,
Swedish,
yeah.
English, which is good. But yeah, she is like, I want to say on board, but she's driving the ship of crazy. That Tyrell is like being the foot soldier to, basically.
Yeah.
So like
Yeah.
all of the stuff that Tyrell is up to really is kind of
It's his wife. Yeah.
orchestrated, agreed upon, and encouraged by his wife, including the moment with the secretary, including the moment with what's the guy's name? Scott something or other, the new CTO's wife.
Except the
Yeah,
last
his
thing
name
with
was
the
Scott.
wife.
Well, yeah,
because
that
that
I mean,
wasn't her idea. She was kind of upset
Yeah.
about that.
Right.
Yeah.
But still, like goes along with it when the cops are over, and
Oh yeah.
I know that they end up having the baby, right? But did she purposely? She fake the water breaking, or
Oh
did it
no,
actually?
that blood on the fork was her
Oh, she
manually
forcing it.
kicking
Oh,
things into gear.
I missed that. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, her little like crab leg fork or whatever those little tiny little
Okay.
forks are. Yeah. Yeah, that's just again, like just amazing characters there. But yeah, so there's one portion of Evil Corp. Dad pointed out behind the scenes here too that in their first interaction, he did tell Elliot at Allsafe, "We will work together," which I do love their first initial interaction, because even though Tyrell is still a scumbag in that interaction, he is like he relates to Elliot, and he kind of is intrigued by what he sees at that brief moment at Elliot's desktop. But moving on, at Evil Corp, the next character to note is, of course, the CTO, Terry Colby, who just are corporate overlords like actually like these people?
I imagine so. In my head, they are. So yeah, I think so.
Like, the way that all the character archetypes in the show, I feel like are just dialed to 11. Like
True.
Vera and Shayla, Elliot with his instability, Angela with her kind of passiveness as a person.
She's an anarchist through and through. Like, she just lives. Like that's all she does. She has no care for structure, what anyone thinks. She's just pure. Also kind of chaos too.
Yeah.
But like everyone, all these corporate suits at Evil Corp are just like over the top giant scumbags. Terry Colby is no different. While less of an actual psycho or sociopath than Terrell, he is just a giant turd.
Yeah, because Angela's able to. She has that scene with him where he kind of actually tells her like how that day went when they decided to let the the toxic spill or whatever go through that killed their parents. So he kind of just admits, he's like, it's just kind of like how it is.
Yeah, a glimmer of humanity for like 30 seconds, and then he's like, but then you go home, and then like life happens, and you're just like, oh yeah, whatever.
Yeah, but see, but I don't think that's exclusive to like the suits. Like we all do that.
Right?
Yeah, we all do that. You go home, you go to sleep, you wake up, and then it's like, what are you gonna do? Like, cry over spilt milk from the day before. Like, doesn't last long. It happens with any news article. Like, no one cares.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point. There's actually a Black Mirror episode that deals with that, where we're just so desensitized to a lot of this stuff that like we see like, oh yeah, like 15 people died in a plane crash today. Next article, you know what I mean? Like we don't even don't get too shit about it.
It's not sad anymore. It's just
no, it's just like next article. Yeah.
It's very true. It's very true. As someone who almost bi-hourly looks through deceased people's estates for work, yes, I totally understand.
Right.
Anyways, I would say on the savage meter though for season 1, Terry Colby is not quite number one, but he is a very close number two, in my opinion. Some of the lines that he delivers to Angela in their scenes where he's on house arrest and she's like trying to convince him to testify, just so savage. Like,
I also love Elliot's narration of him in the beginning as well about the BlackBerry. I thought was freaking hilarious.
Yeah. Now that is true. Now that like that whole Allsafe bit where he's talking about them at Allsafe, like that's pretty, I think, spot on because like typically like the high ups in like technology stuff, they don't know nothing about like what the engineers are doing. It's funny. No, I mean the most savage moment from or lines from anyone was Mr. Robot Elliot in Iron Mountain or Steel Mountain.
Poor Bill.
Poor Bill.
Oh,
dude, shredded,
Bill,
destroyed, eviscerated.
Why did he have to do that?
Annihilated.
Oh my gosh.
Poor Bill. I hope he's still alive.
That. Yeah, he went home and was the inspiration for Evil Corp's executive on live TV. He's like, oh yeah, I remember what Bill did. That sounds like a great idea.
Rip Bill,
no, I don't know if Bill offed himself or not. But the one line that I think people might not think as savage as it actually was when he was explaining to Angela, like, oh yeah, we have rainy day accounts set up for all these, and like
that was great.
That account for that toxic spill like earn triple like what we're going to pay you. So like you think you're doing something, this is like pennies.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, like that is shot to the heart right there. Holy crap.
Hard reality.
Yeah, so we have Terry Colby, of course, the CTO, who then Elliot frames as being Philip Price is a massive douche. Like another amazing character, and he is number one on my savage meter for season 1. Philip Price holds the top spot there. But yeah, Elliot implicates Terry Colby as somebody who helped facilitate or executed the F Society hack. So he goes to prison, gets fired, and this is what sets Tyrell on his crazy journey to be the next CTO of Evil Corp. And that's where we then meet Scott Knowles, who is the other candidate who eventually gets hired as the CTO, and his wife Sharon Knowles. Kind of a douche.
Yeah.
But out of all the Evil Corp douches, I think he is
the lesser
lower on the pole here.
He at least like resigned when his wife was found dead. I mean, that was pretty right of him, I would say. But also my favorite bit from him was when he got the look he wanted out of Tyrell
thing.
Yeah,
I love, dude. That was a savage line. He's
like
take this watch. That's, it's probably worth more than your house or your mortgage or whatever, and you could use it when you're like looking for a new job. And Tyrell was just like, he's like, that's what I was looking for. But then Tyrell goes and kills his wife. So who really won?
Right. Exactly.
So,
which I have to say that I'm very happy that she's dead, because she plays a major character in The Shield, and I was like, it was just not jiving with me very well. I was like, she needs to die. So I'm glad that she did.
That was an intense scene, and then like obviously sends Tyrell and Joanna down a spiral. But when Tyrell comes into Elliot's apartment towards the end of the season, and he's like, you're going to tell me like Tyrell's kind of knows what Elliot's doing the whole time. And then I think we learn because Mr. Robot is having that conversation with him, or is that like after he gets fired? Nick, do you quite remember? It's kind of a jumble to me, that conversation between Tyrell and Mr. Robot and Tyrell's SUV. Was he involved the whole time, or did he become involved after he got fired? I don't remember. But when Tyrell's in Elliot's apartment and he's like, you're going to tell me what's going on. Like, I need to know. And he starts like, he takes his suit jacket off.
Yeah.
And then he gets the gloves on. Yeah. He's like, I strangled a person with these hands, and I thought I would not enjoy it.
That was an odd sensation. Yeah. Or whatever he said.
Exhilarating. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll tell you whatever you want, bro. Can we just take the gloves off, please?
That kind of reminded me of like Jack Nicholson's line in The Departed when he's like, "Oh, she felt funny."
She felt funny. Yeah, right.
It's like that's a weird sensation.
Oh man, is there anyone else from Evil Corp? Oh yeah, we haven't talked about Philip Price at all. The CEO of
The
Evil
goat.
Corp. The most savage character I think in this show, Philip Price. Man, he's just like that conversation he has right before he goes and talks about the executive who blew his brains out on live TV was just so savage. I was just like I was texting Nick. I was like, I mean, I knew this dude was a savage, but I forgot about this, and this is harsh.
Right.
Oh man.
But then we're also torn also by him and his savagery because he has this like not out of nowhere, but like very quickly at the end of this season, like his understudy Angela, and she goes to get a new shoes, and like I didn't even piece it together that like there was blood on her shoe. That's why she was getting a shoe, and like the guy fitting her shoe was like, oh my god, like
starts going off on her. You're just like them. You're no better than. But and then
she's
she
like,
just like
she snaps back. Yeah, she
she's
snaps
like, "Who do you
back and
think you're
loved
talking to? I'll take
I
a
loved
size
it.
11, bro."
Yep.
Try the Prada ones next.
Yeah. So that's an important arc here. Angela's arc, of course, worked at Allsafe, kind of gets thrown under the bus by Terry Colby during that meeting about the hack. Does she get fired or quit?
She gets hacked by the Dark Army.
Yeah, we haven't got to that part yet, but I want to. The reason that I think she leaves is because of the case she tries to reopen against Terry Colby and Evil Corp. Because Gideon gets really pissed at her for suing their biggest client while she works for Allsafe.
Yeah.
Because she says basically, as part of the deal with Colby to get him to testify, she is going to say that she like screwed up the thing and like broke the chain of command or whatever, which would free him of any guilt essentially. So obviously that is not a good look for Allsafe when you're admitting that you basically framed your largest client. So I don't know if he I can't recall if he fires her, if she quits. Or
I think
she quits.
Yeah, I thought she quit.
Say it.
Yeah,
but
she
quits.
says it in a scene as well that she had quit
when she's talking to the lawyer lady. But shocking turn of events, Terry Colby basically offers her a job at Evil Corp. And even more shocking twist of events, she takes the job at Evil Corp. And yeah, like Nick said, kind of is taken under Philip Price's wing. And
she's a go-getter.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to tear a company from the inside out, that's the spot you want to be at, probably at the top,
Yeah.
That's the easiest spot to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's some humanity to Colby. And while he is a super douche, he does have a shred of humanity. Philip Price has none.
Yeah.
he has none, but he's got a lot of dollars that he can shell out for some new shoes to replace your blood and brain splattered ones.
Right.
Which then, like Nick said, you brought up the Dark Army. We cannot escape the character roundtable without talking about the Dark Army. The Dark Army is a Chinese hacking organization that F Society is trying to get to partner up to execute this hack against Evil Corporation. And their foot soldier, Cisco,
who's a librarian.
Yeah, what a character. I love Cisco.
And hooks up with Angela. It's just bizarre.
No, he's Darlene's like side piece.
Or Darlene, yeah.
That's their connection with the Dark Army. And Cisco is tasked with infiltrating Allsafe, and he does it by posing as an independent rapper, handing out demos on the side of the street, gives one to Ollie, who of course falls for it because that guy's just a giant gullible turd.
Yeah.
Now, one thing that did bug me was not Ollie being a dummy with the CD, but the cop who put the thumb drive off the like the parking lot in his computer. I was like, all right, I would hope cops aren't that dumb.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, I think
Well,
it's just
yeah.
a people thing. Like, I think a
Really?
lot of people would probably do that.
Never
Yes.
in my life.
Well,
Unless it
you are
was like
also like a techie guy, so you
yeah,
probably
like on a
would have
specific computer,
reservations.
I would only ever do that.
Yeah. But I love that Darlene's just walking through the police station parking lot, throwing like 50 flash drives in the parking lot, all loaded up with this rootkit, which is great. But yeah, Cisco infects Allsafe, blackmails Ollie, who shockingly said no one is cheating on Angela because he's a giant scumbag. Big theme of season 1, lots of scumbags.
Lots of yeah.
But of course, Angela has to kind of follow through with this, go along with this hack of Allsafe.
I'm sorry. You guys coughed literally at the same time, and one muted, one didn't, and I couldn't tell who was who.
Sorry, dude. I got you, Nick. I got you. I got you, man. Angela goes through with the hack, and the hacker's plan because while Ollie fell for it, he fell for it on Angela's computer, which is big ouchie. And they also, got some schnoods of Angela, which is not a good thing. But it's also the computer that she has all of her like financial information, bank accounts, all that stuff on. So she's really afraid of identity theft and all that stuff, which is totally understandable. The other character from the Dark Army that we are introduced to, fabulous character here, and that is the one and only White Rose, who is actually a big deal over at the Dark Army. She doesn't meet with just anyone, and Elliot is fortunate enough to get a 3-minute meeting with White Rose, and man, that 3-minute scene is so good, dude.
So good. One of my favorites. Yeah.
Crushes this character so much.
Yep.
And again, just a fantastic and like hyper interesting character. Like,
yeah, really. Yeah.
But yeah, eventually the Dark Army links arms with Evil Corp and they execute the hack, which is the big plan all along. We have a lot of fun journey along the way. The Steel Mountain trip, really cool, intense infiltration there. The scene with Tyrell and Elliot, like, and how he social engineers Tyrell into getting him into the place where he needs to get, was really, really cool. The social engineering portion of their hacks is also super fascinating to me. What do you guys think about those?
I had a lot of fun rewatching the Steel Mountain bit for two reasons. Because the first episode, Elliot has his withdrawal sequence. But then on the second episode, there is the whole watching Elliot with the earpiece talking to his boys, but also Mr. Robot, who is on a second watch, is not really there.
Yeah.
But it's super convincing because like Elliot's mostly just listening to himself. You have to look at the cues where just they're talking, but they're like just in silence, confused.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like there's those weird interactions where he's like in the halls with these people that don't know him and he's just like quiet, listening to Mr. Robot himself like talk through things. And it's just really bizarre.
Man, what was his made up name? Sam Sepiol. That's
Sepiol. Yeah.
Like Sam Ishmael.
Yeah, exactly. No, the Steel Mountain thing was super cool. But I think
I legit thought he got shot with I was like, is he actually? I thought he was up at that drug house for real.
We need to talk about the trip, right? Which is one of Dad's favorite moments of season 1 here. And another huge like point here to just reiterate the whole, like, what are we seeing? What can we trust that we are shown? Because this plays out very much like it's really happening. Like up until it gets like really trippy after he gets shot, but like, he's going through crazy withdrawals in the hotel. Him and Mr. Robot sneak off to go get a hit from a drug house. He goes in there, gets his hit. Someone is fighting about drugs. There's gunshots, and then he eventually gets shot. And like up until that point, it's very much like, holy crap, like,
yeah,
what is going on here?
Yeah, I thought for sure the whole time he was in that. That whole scene plays out so wild too, because she gets shot like on the couch, like just out of nowhere. It felt like, but yeah, super trippy scene. That whole episode was super trippy.
Oh, poor
I wonder which came first.
Snacked on.
The True Detective, like ghetto scene where he's like getting out, that whole like single shot sequence. That's what it reminded me of. Was this a single shot? Because like when they pull up on the curb, I think it follows them like straight all the way through the house, at least for like those few minutes. I feel like it is like a single shot.
Interesting. I would be interested to know that. I didn't really I didn't pay close enough attention to notice. But now that you're talking about it, even if it wasn't a singular shot, it is still very reminiscent of the scene you're talking about from True Detective, which is a fantastic scene of a show. Like,
it's like a 20-minute sequence is what it is, and it's just glorious.
But yeah, do you remember much of the specifics of the trip after the shot? Because there's a lot to unpack there.
Yeah, he goes through a few different sequences there when he's like really tripping, because he's like married or at least dinner with Angela, right? And he proposes to her, and like she's eating the beta fish, but like a giant version of it. He also is in the film room where they film The Anonymous Guy, right? And he kind of puts on the mask. I believe he divulges into Times Square at some point in that. I'm trying to think if there's several iterations of that, until he finally comes back into his room. Now, I also get confused too when Mr. Robot, when he's actually speaking to people as Mr. Robot, or he's just yelling in his head, because did he actually say like just leave then, right, to make
him leave? Yeah,
but they were just staring at him in this pathetic state. Like I don't think he was capable of like screaming at them like just leave. Maybe he was. Part of me takes that as like that was just Mr. Robot screaming in his head, and he didn't actually say that to them.
And they were just leaving anyway.
They're just leaving. Yeah. So like that makes me think of like other times, like what is actually being said out loud to people when it's Mr. Robot talking.
Or it could have even been like Elliot laying in the bed was like a visual representation, obviously, of like how he was feeling, but like maybe he wasn't standing and saying that, but maybe he did actually scream that, but it comes out in the aggressive Mr. Robot character, even though in the physical he is screaming that from his state in the bed, right? I don't know. There's a lot of things that you can like interpret in all those scenes where they're both there and both talking, right? Or I mean, they don't both talk there, but you understand what I'm saying. But yeah, there's that scene. I'll pull a line from Chad, and we're just gonna say stick a pin in the trippy sequence after Elliot is shot. That is going to be important. So we've gone through, I think, all of the characters that of importance, at least in season 1. Did we leave any out? I don't think. We kind of went through group by group.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Not everybody.
In my head, yeah.
Okay. What like major plot points, story arcs do we want to like briefly summarize and like dissect? Because we kind of touched base on some story elements as we were talking through characters and kind of some of their arcs, but we haven't really talked about like the big arcs of the season.
Yeah, one big thing to point out is obviously the importance of Angela and Elliot's tie, which is her mother, his father dying, right, in the E Corp toxic waste plant thing. I forget the details on the
Washington
specifics.
Township toxic spill. Yes.
Yep. So that's a big motivating factor for everything, really.
Right.
Both Angela's kind of now splitting off side arc, which is mega important, into E Corp, but then also Elliot obviously on the outside doing his hack thing. So that's just like a slight detail, but it always resurfaces, and like that's also like the detail that is like the Mr. Robot giveaway, especially when he's like, "Oh, this is my dad. He's supposed to be dead. He's not really dead." But it's like, yeah, he's just really dead. Like, don't don't fall
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
But that whole sequence too, like after he like is with Mr. Robot that he thinks he's his dad, that's a super interesting chain of events because they go to the house, he pushes himself out the window, he's talking to himself openly in public, right? And that's the first time we see that situation where people are aware that this guy's just like talking and screaming at himself, which makes me think other times, because I looked for that in earlier scenes where it's Mr. Robot and him talking in public. So either people were ignoring him or it's more Mr. Robot in his head,
In
like
his head,
true
right?
dialogue, inner dialogue. So
Yeah.
there's evidence for both.
I think to touch on the not falling for him being dead or alive thing, one reason that I think people were able to fall for him not actually being dead is typically with reveals like that, like the character would like be off screen, like it would focus on Elliot saying something, it would go back to where Mr. Robot was and he'd be gone.
Yeah.
But no, he's still there, and he's like, "No, all right, let's go. We still got stuff to do."
Dude, I fell for it 100%. Like, yeah, I was like, that's the twist. Like that this guy is
His
been
dad's
dad
alive.
the whole time. And they even kind of set it up a little bit on the boardwalk as well, where he's telling the story about his dad pushing him out the window and then he shoves him. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Yep.
He pushes
I
him
Great
over
minds
it.
think alike. Holy
Yeah,
cow.
yeah, that's hilarious.
I love the Vimeo video of like
Yeah.
the boardwalk fail.
Yeah.
I also love that it's on Vimeo.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Yeah. He just falls off. And it was like perfectly timed too, because when the skateboard goes up in the air like to do the ollie, it looks like it like flicks him off the the ledge. But yeah, just that Washington Township thing obviously is a big story point for the, like you said, Nick, Elliot and Angela. But as the story progresses and as you see season 1 progress, by the end of the season, like that has totally engulfed Angela as a person, right? Is reopening that case against Evil Corp, and now since Terry Colby saw something in her, right? She's tasked herself with trying to take down Evil Corp from within. The story arc for Tyrell, which we kind of briefly touched on, like he has a connection with Elliot, right? The hacking and CTO like lifestyles, cybersecurity, right? That they both work in the same field, right? Like he's driven to be the next CTO of Evil Corp, and then when that doesn't work out, like revenge is on his mind, right? He's like he said, he's given his life, like he loved, like I truly believe when he said that, like he meant that with every fiber of his being, like he loved that company. And they have wronged him, and he's a sociopath. So what is he going to do? He is going to destroy them. So while Tyrell predicted it and manifest their working together at the start of the season, it is unlike what he envisioned in his mind, where Instead of him being able to recruit Elliot to come into his world, Elliot has unwillingly and unwantingly now is kind of partnered with Tyrell in F Society, which is such a good story arc there. We have the small budding. Wow, that was also unintentional, but it's kind of a pun, I guess, because of the Dark Army and White Rose. But we have this budding story arc of the Dark Army and their involvement with. I swear, I did not mean to do that. But when you do this for what? We're coming up on. This will be year 3.
Year 3
just
yeah.
comes. It starts to come naturally, guys. What can I say? No, but the now. I almost did again. This infantile storyline of the Dark Army and their involvement with F Society and the role that they play in the like global cyber world, right? Is starting to manifest itself a little bit. The importance of White Rose is something to take note of, and that interaction between Elliot and White Rose was super cool.
I also love in that scene that he asks her a question, and then the thing, her watch or whatever, beeps, and then she just closes the door and leaves.
Yep.
Doesn't answer the question. I'm like, so good, dude.
She allotted him 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
His time was up.
His time was up. So good. And his walk out of there where he's like paranoid about time as well because of her. It's just everything around
really
that.
Cool.
Yeah, it's
really
it's
good. Like, am I like we're all infected? Like,
right?
She's infected me with her her time.
He's like, we have like 55
paranoia.
hours and so many minutes to get this, and he's like, oh crap, what have I become? I'm trying to think of all the like side storylines, because Elliot's storyline is huge and like very messy and entwined like with everything kind of. But I think it's just really those 3, right? Angela, Tyrell, and Elliot, and F Society being like a part of Elliot and his chain. Or am I missing something, Nick?
No, I mean that's basically it, because those are like the 3 main motivating antagonists against E-Corp. So you have Elliot, which originated in, Angela would think like it's all because of his father's death, but it becomes this bigger thing, like to save the world or make a big change, thing like that. Where Angela is very much like, killed my mother, I must seek my revenge. Tyrell, you've kind of like really triggered me. You've triggered my sociopathness, and he needs something, right? So he latches on then to Elliot. So yeah, I would say those are the 3 like main kind of arcs going in.
Yeah, like
even though
like we have obviously Elliot and his and the F Society part of Elliot, where the hacking, the taking down of Evil Corp. Like you said, it's hard to tell if it's like motivated in part by the Washington Township thing, or if he's just like not a fan of capitalism and like mega corporations, or if it's like a combination of the 2.
I think it's a combination. Yeah, that's how I take it. It's a combination of the 2 for sure.
Well, yeah, because on one side you have like kind of hobbyist hacker Elliot, who just hacks people and then like exposes them and has his little CD case of all his people he's hacked.
I love how he names them like band albums.
Yeah, in the gang dude is just like, dude, like what is like, he's just going through it and he's like, you listen to this? But then there's the other side of Elliot, like kind of more the Mr. Robot side, that's like, I am a brilliant hacker, like I need to do something like mega with my skills, and has this huge vision for like taking down capitalism or whatever. So you have these 2 sides of Elliot that kind of swing back and forth, like which is he right now? Equally skilled.
Because it's that Mr. Robot side is put on display in that first rant with Krista, right? that is totally a Mr. Robot rant where he's talking about the pitfalls of society and capitalism, blah 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 blah. But like along with that, we also have Elliot, like the band-aid of the Mr. Robot reveal being ripped off, and then that just reopens this mega wound of his of like trying to remember and understand what is going on with that whole thing.
Yeah.
Because that is, well, crazy. Like, it's to his character, it just is like, holy crap, I'm like, see, like my a personality of my dead father is like a part of me
Actively in
and
my life.
controlling
Yeah.
what I do at times. Like, what
Yeah.
the heck is going on there?
It's also fun how like the dominoes kind of like fall over and impact different parts of the story where you don't expect it. So like the whole morphine addiction thing, just, you know, all of a sudden, like he doesn't have any more morphine, right? So what's going to happen? He's going to withdraw. And what does that do? Impact like the whole Steel Mountain thing. So like that's just like that wild card element that's going to he's orbiting.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a solar system is what's going on. Elliot's obviously the sun, and there's this like he's moving through the universe, and there's all these orbiting things that are swinging around, and we're going to see that a lot in season 2 where things are going to come back
Yeah.
and like hit the story and then go away again.
Well, like, and it's just again a perfect example of like, you would think the drug addiction would just be like, oh, it's like
A character thing,
trait.
yeah.
Like, okay, we got to have like a character flaw for this, even though like he's full of
plenty.
flaws.
Yeah, he's got
But-
plenty.
Well, you'd see that normally in a show where it's just like, oh, it's a side thing. Let's have a filler episode where he trips.
There's drug dealer
right?
hacker, or there's drug doing hackers.
Right. Or like, let's put a weird trippy episode of where he just like goes through withdrawal and has like this crazy hallucination. But like, no, that is a central thing to the main storyline of season 1. All the stuff happening with the executives at eCorp, and Angela and Allsafe and Gideon, all that stuff is completely entwined in the main story through season 1. Like, every little piece of this is so crucial to the complete story of season 1. And I love it. It's a great first season to this series. Like, and I'm glad it hooked you. I really am.
Yeah.
Can't wait for
definitely.
Trying to think, obviously
Go a whole year.
there's so much stuff that we could like really go into details on, which it really makes me wish that we were a podcast in 2015 and could have taken the place of Mr. Roboto. But go listen to that if you want episode to episode breakdowns. That's a fantastic podcast to listen to. Please go listen to it. Not that they probably care because it's like 5 years old by now, but whatever.
Sudden spike in our views. Like, what happened? No.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome. No, that kind of like, without going into like super weeds, like that kind of wraps up the main points of season 1. And I had Dad find the post-credit scene because Chad said you haven't seen it, so we're gonna throw it up on the screen.
I need to re-see it.
We'll just put us over there on the side. Make sure you unmute it.
Turn it up.
Yeah, let's see here. So here we're gonna watch the post-credit scene with Chad for the first time, and any of you viewers who maybe didn't think there was a post-credit scene, there are post-credit scenes.
Yeah, this is like pre-Marvel. I didn't think that was a thing before pre-Marvel, you know.
All right, let's see what we got here.
Sound and color. Just a regular set.
There you go. Post-credit scene. So a few things to unpack there. First off, I love Philip Price's voice. Like, holy crap, I could listen to him talk forever.
You can listen to him say scumbag things all day long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, dude, I love it. Yeah, as Jeff said, a room full of rich scumbags, indeed.
Dirtier the better.
So, what did you take anything away from that scene there, Chad?
No, not really. I assume the dude that was talking to him is Dark Army guy, I would imagine. Am I right in that?
That was indeed White Rose.
That was White Rose. Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you couldn't tell by the watch beeping.
Oh, the beeping. Yeah, I should have picked that.
And
back.
also, you have the watching Rome burn comment as,
Yeah.
they were directly involved in the hack against Evil Corp that sent the world spiraling out of control. But, White Rose is not a lady. I forget his name when he's not White Rose. Anyways, works directly with Evil Corp and Philip Price on projects. And they mentioned this project in the Congo involving some mines. So a few things to keep in the back of your head as we move forward in the series. But yeah. I don't know. What else is there left to say, guys?
Chad.
Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you to predict anything that happens in season 2.
Yeah.
But is there any missing characters that you think might come back?
Oh, we haven't even talked about what happened to Tyrell.
Yeah.
Where'd Tyrell go?
I mean, there's a few characters that have like vanished during this season that didn't really have a conclusion, right? Tyrell's the big open-ended one, right? And then there's other ones that just.
Do you remember? You'll have to ask him these questions, and I am going to refrain from speaking any words. I just want Chad's thoughts and predictions.
Yeah. So obviously, I want to know what happened to Tyrell. I think Vero's probably going to come back at some point. Other missing characters, not off the top of my head that I can think of.
I mean, I know. Even on like a second watch, I didn't necessarily believe that his girlfriend was really dead. I was confused at that whole point because like that enters like a weird like he kind of like starts to lose it there too because he that was pretty tragic. So even on a second watch, like I wasn't convinced that she was dead. So I was like, is she really dead? I don't know.
Well, really by the end of the show here, like dude, if you asked me to predict what happened, I couldn't even do it because the scene at the end there in Times Square where they have like the protesters or whatever out and all that's going on. And then he snaps out of it and there's nobody there. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, did none of this happen? Or is he envisioning that there's nobody here, but they were here? Like, dude, it's so fucking confused. It threw me through such a loop.
So happy. This makes me so happy.
It threw me through such a loop at the end there because I didn't know where to lay what was real. And honestly, dude, like I know that there are probably almost certainly real characters in the show, but it wouldn't shock me at all if none of this fucking shit was happening at all and none of these characters are real. It wouldn't shock me at all. So yeah, that's where I'm at as far as predictions. Like, I have no clue where
the series ends and it's just a camera on Sam Esmail like writing a book.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Was it Lost where they were all just streaming and everyone was really upset? Was it that show or was it a different one?
I never watched Lost, but I remember everyone being mad at the end of Lost.
Yeah, so I think the end of Lost, it was supposed to be that they all had died in the plane crash and they were in purgatory. I think that was the hint. But yeah, like I said earlier, the show really reminds me of, especially towards the end of the movie Identity, which is really good. If you guys haven't seen it, maybe leave for the next minute because I'm going to talk about it. But it's a murder mystery in like a deserted hotel where all this crazy shit happens. You're trying to figure out who murdered who. And then at the end of the movie, it ends up that it's a guy with multiple personality disorder in the back of a prison transport. It's like playing out all in his head. So yeah, that's where I'm like leaning. I'm like, dude, I don't know that any of this shit's real, man. You know, like especially at the end there, that scene that we didn't even really touch on is like, dude, I'm like, what? Like, did any of that stuff happen? Because now there's like no, or I've been in Times Square, so I know it never gets that empty. So now is he envisioning like that it's empty and it's really not? But like, it's just so trippy, man.
And you have the whole like Shutter Island situations where like you're just in an insane asylum.
Right.
there's like
another
that whole
great movie.
twist that could happen. And I guess that's like the cool thing about this show is like, are we going to have like any of those like very verbatim like tropes kind of thing, or
Yeah.
like switch ups, or like, because there's just so many layers to the cake on this one where it's just like you still
Yeah.
can't like predict what is real.
Right,
and not.
exactly. And I love like when you watch, at least for me personally, I've talked to people that said that they picked up the Shutter Island thing really quickly. I didn't pick it up until the very end, but when you
Yeah.
go and watch the movie again, it's like shocking how in your face it is that you know they take as good. We talk about that movie separately, but yeah, I love movies like this, and the show is kind of set up like it. So yeah, I'm all in, 100%.
Civ says the best line: horrors don't get second chances. There's a lot of good lines.
Jeff brought up the door knock at the end.
Yes, the door knock at the very end. Who are some of do you have any? I mean, you just said you can't make any predictions, but do you have any guess of who might be knocking at the door?
I mean, I was leaning on Tyrell, but I also like don't know what, like he just disappeared, right? So I got to think that's who it's going to be. If I had to pin it, that's who I'd pin it on right now.
Yeah, the Tyrell disappearing after the hack.
I think like Elliot killed
gone
him.
for days.
Well, I lean either to it's because of the way the show is. Like I'm like, okay, maybe he didn't. He was just one of Elliot's like people in his head that never fucking existed.
Tyrell even a real character?
Who knows?
Well,
yeah. Just the way he disappears is just odd, and the timing of it is very strange.
But Elliot's
there's
Elliot's actually married to Joanna. Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
Well, no, that's the thing. His interaction with Joanna was awesome. I love that scene because he was just like, something's not right about her. Like, can she hear me? Like, she's like reading me like a book, and it's freaking me out.
Dude, so true. That was a very, very good excuse me, very good conversation there, because they both knew exactly what they were each other was trying to do.
Yeah.
It was great. Okay, so we got Tyrell, we got the knock. You mentioned Vera. That is a character that jettisons out. What other characters were you talking about, Nick? Do you have any other specific ones?
I think that's fine for now.
Okay. Yeah, let me tell you, dude, you guys are in for a wild ride for season 2. You guys are in for a wild ride. I can't wait. I forget what
is Joey in season 2? You have to say his full name. Joey? Yeah. Or is that season 3?
See, I don't remember.
There's
so many good characters that have yet to be introduced that are some of my favorite, but I can't remember when they come in.
Yeah.
All right. That's the format of the show. We're just going to talk about characters and their development. And like, we don't even need to talk about like, we just need to touch on some scenes, but really it's just like characters and like,
I mean, really you're going to touch, if you do it that way, you're going to touch on most of the stuff anyway.
I kind of liked how we did go through the groups, character groups there.
Because they're going to expand, surprisingly, and change. Everyone dies.
It's none of it's real.
None of it's real.
So, I mean, any final thoughts, Chad, as a first-time viewer, that you would like to encourage maybe some weirdos who are listening to this that didn't watch season 1, or maybe some that are listening to this watch season 1 and were like, it hasn't really hooked me yet. Like, you have any encouragement for those people?
I mean, to be honest with you, if it doesn't hook you by the end of the first season, and then I don't know what's coming that's going to hook you more. I mean, I'm pretty hooked from everything that happened through the final like 3-4 episodes. But you owe yourself. I mean, it's an injustice to myself that I didn't watch this show, and it's only 4 seasons as well. So there's really no reason. A very big injustice.
That doesn't happen often.
It doesn't.
Okay, so I believe the person you're referring to, Nick, comes in season 2. I'm sure. I'm waiting for IMDb to load, but he's in 13 episodes. So I want to say, if not season 2, season 3.
Is season 2 13 episodes?
Season 2 is 12, I think.
My favorite character, I should say, no, he's my favorite character. He doesn't come until season 3 though, which makes me really sad.
Oh wow.
But man, I love. Do you know who I'm talking about, Nick?
Yeah,
Oh, I
not Joey,
love
the
this.
other one.
I love this guy, dude. He's
Yeah,
the
this
best character.
this dude's a riot.
He's so awesome. Yeah, man, I've said it a couple times throughout the episode, but like, I am so excited that you love this show, Chad.
Yeah,
I
I
was
do, man.
really nervous about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's right up my alley, 100%.
Yeah.
Make you want to play Watch Dogs.
It does. Actually, their like little hangout in the arcade is very reminiscent of the hangout in Watch Dogs 2. I don't think it's an arcade. Might be an arcade, but yeah.
All right, and we do have Answer the Boys we need to get through, but Civ, if you're still here in chat, what you just updated us that you watched it in Discord, but what were your thoughts? If you could like briefly, like a couple sentences in chat, 'cause, obviously I don't want to make you type up a novel. But I'm curious to know what you actually thought of the show. Answer the Boys, of course, we asked your thoughts, opinions, all that good stuff on season 1. Ben from the Dragoon Effect podcast says this is on my list, and then of course myself and Dad enthusiastically encouraged him to bump this up his list.
Has Dad watched this all the way through?
No,
He's
he's with
watching
you first time.
Gotcha.
And he was hooked. I tried to talk him into not starting season 2 until after
Till
tonight.
we start. Yeah.
I will say, because I always have to point this out, the first episode being 65 minutes had me worried about this
that's right.
this activity, but they're all like 45 minutes, so it's in that, once again, like 4 seasons with a known ending. 45 minutes long. Like,
yeah,
those are
like,
3
well, when you
check
said they were
boxes.
like all hard hours, I was like, really, on a cable television show?
Yeah,
Like, how the
no.
hell they get away
Yeah.
with that? But
Yeah, no, he fibbed.
yeah.
One quick note. I don't know if I said it on the episode or in the pre-episode chat. But if you like this show, Sam Esmail is involved in 2 other really interesting projects. One being a Prime original called Homecoming, 2 seasons, very interesting story. I don't think he wrote, but I think he directed and produced. And then another show on, I believe it was TBS, called Briar Patch with Rosario Dawson. 1 season, limited series, very, very good. If you like Mr. Robot, odds are you'll probably really enjoy those 2 shows. You should go check them out. Yeah, IMDb is not loading. I can't tell you when your favorite or when your character comes in, Nick, but I guess we'll find out soon enough. Civ, he says, I wasn't feeling it until I got to episode 4. Then I slammed the last 6 today. It became fantastic to me, and I love the Fight Club feels. Nice.
Awesome.
Nice. Glad you're liking it. Dad the Cap says in Discord for Answer the Boys, currently taking this journey with the boys. I must say, it is a show that ticks every box what I'm looking for in a show. It's been easy to lose myself in the show, especially with the way Elliot speaks to the viewer like he's breaking the fourth wall, but it's deeper than that. I feel like I'm in his head, and a way people have described it, and even with Elliot saying it, I feel like I'm his imaginary friend. I have
That's
so
a good
much
way to fucking put it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he does. I guess he does call us that a few times. I have so much more to say, but this is a must watch. If it's on your list to watch, it's a show that should instantly take the top spot. Oh, dang, bro.
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
fire.
I would agree. Yeah, I would agree with that as well.
The fourth wall breaking, again, due to the unreliable narrator approach and style of the show. Stroke of genius. Like,
Yeah.
the way he's talking to us, the viewer,
Yeah.
the entire,
Yeah.
like, he's
He even
narrating.
knocks like the camera down and stuff in the one scene, like shoves the camera guy down, which is really
he'll
cool.
like look into the camera.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's,
Yeah, I love
it
that
is
stuff.
good.
There's a scene in Hateful Eight I was watching the other day where there's a fourth wall break where the old man sitting in the chair kind of looks over at the camera as the bad guys are coming, or the protagonists are coming through the door.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it's great because you really do feel like a part of Elliot as you're watching this, which is It elevates the show. And I should say too, like, as much fun as it is to try to like figure out shows and movies, I really feel like this is a show. While there's a lot to try to figure out, like, I would say go along for the ride and like try to figure it out with what is presented to you. I would not. I mean, you would do yourself a disservice if you like looked anything up.
Oh
It
yeah,
wouldn't
during
make
your
sense
watch.
though.
Like you just enjoy the ride. Come here with us. Talk about it. Talk through. We will be your Krista, okay? And we can talk about it, and then we can just go on this journey of discovery together, and it will be great. Plus, it's not that long. It's only 3 more Throwback Thursdays, so it's not that much to follow along with. All right, let's get out of here. Join Patreon, showboys.com or patreon.com/showboys. Check out our website, showboysmedia.com. Join our Discord. Leave a comment. Tell us what you thought of season 1. Stay tuned for March Madness. That's going to be a lot of fun. And subscribe. Tell all of your friends to subscribe so we give away this Switch OLED for when we hit 1,000 subs. Other than that, enjoy the banger Mr. Robot theme remix by the one and only Dad the Captain. Goodbye, friend.
Hello, friend.
I mean, yeah, I'm like trying to find where this character I like enters the series, but I'm reading like the descriptions of the episodes, and like none of it makes sense. If you were to even read it, you would be like, "It's this does nothing
Completely
to me."
lost. Yeah.
Yeah, like none of it makes sense. You're like,
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What?
I wouldn't even do it. I wouldn't even do it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Well, Mike's dead. He disappeared like a Tyrell.